Newport between junctions 23 and 29, but it's going to be built with private finance, and that means tolls, around £2, and that's on top of the 7 tolls. Some aren't happy.
We're having no assistance at all. Profit margins are very, very tight, and this might be an extra burden and nail in the coffin to a lot of more well colliers.
But the Economic Development Minister insists industry is on board.
I was being lobbied very, very strongly by the business community since I've been Economic Development Minister, and the last year since I've been Transport Minister, about the negative impressions of Wales with the congestion around the Newport Bringlass Tunnels area. That was the biggest disincentive.
But surely this will be the exception rather than the rule.
Everything that Alistair Darling has been saying recently is that this is going to be on the agenda within the next 10 to 15 years. We have to tackle the issue of uncontrolled traffic growth. Car ownership is increasing, car use is increasing, and we have to deal with the problems that come with that, and that's obviously particularly in areas like Newport and Cardiff and Swansea, and that's the problem of congestion.
So look out, pay per use is on its way to many of our busy roads, but it could also affect our cities. It's already worked in London, congestion down by 30% since it was introduced last year. And now it looks like congestion charges could be on their way to Cardiff. Visitors to the city could be charged up to £2 in around 5 years' time for the privilege of driving through the city.
We have to face the problem that doing nothing is not an option. We've got to do something, and we can't do it without partners, and we can't do it without capital. And this is one way of raising capital, but more than that, of also controlling the situation, of persuading some people not to travel at peak time, of persuading others that now they will have better public transport.
The council wants the City Ring Road finished, but they need the private sector on board because the Assembly won't fully fund it. One way to encourage investment is to let a road building firm recoup its investment by operating a congestion charge, once, of course, the road's been built. Other projects were also announced in the Minister's transport package, including a north-south airlink. There'll be subsidies for that to ensure low fares so that it's not just politicians and businessmen who use the service. There was also cash for other smaller road projects across Wales. But the main message appeared to be, prepare yourself for more tolls.
Well, I'm joined now by William Graham, the Conservative transport spokesman, and by Jenny Randerson, the Liberal Democrat transport spokesperson. William Graham first, to toll or not to toll? That is the question.
Well, I don't want tolls. I don't want anything to prevent economic development in South Wales generally. We all know what a tremendous bar to development were the Bringlass tunnels. We hardly want 2 tolls in quick succession. The transport already will tell you that their rates are reflected in the toll they pay. But they've got to pay another toll, that's another barrier. We don't want a toll like that. What we want is like the new Southern Distributor Road in Newport. PFI scheme, there is actually a toll, it's an electronic toll, and the bill is picked up by the Welsh Assembly Government.
But the CBI, the business organisation, have been pushing for this new road as a driver for economic development, and they're quite relaxed about another toll.
Well, they may be. This road, was in essence, was planned under a Conservative government, put on hold by the Labour government after 1997. The route was chosen by public consultation. It'll be altered slightly now, and that's a good thing, because with the reduction in the Llanwern steelworks, there's more land available, which otherwise probably would have been used for economic development.
Your party's used tolls in the past. They've contemplated tolls. The second Severn crossing was under your government a toll. What's wrong with tolls?
I've not said anything wrong with tolls. What I don't want is another toll plaza on the M4 Relief Road. Toll it by all means.
How would you pay for it? You want the roads, but you're not willing to pick up the tab for it.
The Welsh Assembly Government will pay for it through taxation.
But we've heard this week from Bill Wiggin, your spokesman in London, about the effect that Oliver Letwin's budget cut would have on the Welsh bloc. And you can't on the one hand say let's increase spending on transport, and on the other hand saying that we're not going to rise spending overall.
Yes, but the point being, we firmly believe the M4 Relief Road will lead to greater economic prosperity. That means more profits for companies.
In the long term.
That means more taxation. It's taxes which pay for hospitals, roads and schools.
Jenny Anderson, your position on this road as well is a little confusing. Can you possibly explain it to us?
Well, I think that, first of all, it's quite astonishing that the Minister has announced a £500 million investment without ever seeing the study which he commissioned into the future of the M4. We all recognise the serious effect that congestion has on business has on tourism in discouraging people from coming into Wales. And it is very annoying for everyone who has to suffer it. But the study, the Capita study, making better use of the M4, has never been seen by the Minister. He has told me that twice in the last fortnight.
So this road could be unnecessary?
It may be unnecessary. We have to see the study first before we can make that judgment. If it's necessary, then I think a toll road built by private finance is a perfectly reasonable option. And there are ways now of collecting a toll which doesn't involve stopping at a plaza. However, what I do think is that we shouldn't have two tolls to come into Wales. By the time this road is built, if it is needed, by the time this road is built, the second Severn crossing will actually have been paid for by tolls, and we need to look at the necessity of having that toll first.
What's wrong with the old-fashioned way of funding road building programmes? We pay for it from the general taxes, as William Graham's advocating. What's wrong with that? Don't motorists pay enough tax already without having to pay a supplement on top of their income taxes?
Well, I think £500 million is a phenomenal amount to take out of the Welsh allocation in order to build a road which traffic experts say will save only 5 or 10 minutes on a journey. And Dr. Tony Beresford of Cardiff University pointed out this week that it is unnecessary for 20 out of the 24 hours of the day and totally unnecessary most weekends. So we really cannot afford £500 million out of the amount we have currently in Wales. I wish we had more. I'd like us to have more. But if out of that amount, we can't possibly afford that.
But the logic of your argument is we don't need this road.
I don't think we necessarily need the road. And we need to, there are so many unanswered questions. I think the prime point is, it is quite extraordinary that a minister has made a decision on building a stretch of motorway without seeing the study he commissioned. And he has told me twice he hasn't seen it.
William Graham, Jenny Randerson seems to be suggesting there the road is unnecessary. Business don't share that view, neither do you.
No, do I. I think it's worth saying that previous studies all indicate the existing road is really at capacity or even above its planned capacity. Anyone who has to travel that at any peak times will know that that is true. There's always, unfortunately, an accident of some kind every week on that section between 26 and 27.
Okay. William Graham, Jenny Randerson, thanks both for joining us.